When we look at the literal meaning of the word money, the first nation that often comes to mind for many people is the Jews. Their most recognized success has always been in the field of trade. Many of the world's wealthiest families and most powerful financial networks, in one way or another, trace their roots back to the Jews. But how did this happen? Get ready for a story that carries the scent of money, because the tragedies this nation endured somehow turned, over time, into unimaginable wealth. And it's impossible not to be amazed as you learn their story. One of the main reasons Jews are considered masters of the financial world lies hidden in their religious beliefs. To understand this, we need to look back to ancient times, to the wars between the Roman Empire and the Jews. As a result of those defeats, many Jewish people were exiled to different regions of the Roman Empire or taken away as slaves. As time passed, new states emerged across Europe, and Christianity became the dominant religion. This marked the beginning of a difficult and dark era for the Jews. According to the Bible, Jesus Christ was persecuted by the Jews and crucified at their demand. This event deepened the hatred Christian nations felt toward the Jews, pushing them to the margins of society and creating an atmosphere of isolation. For that reason, even before the Middle Ages, Jews in Europe were strictly forbidden from owning land, receiving formal education, joining the army, or holding government positions. In some places, they weren't even allowed to enter the city centers. In such an isolated situation, very few professions remained open to them, mainly craftsmanship and lending money with interest. In other words, usury. Usury, lending money at interest, was considered a sin in Christianity and completely forbidden for Christians. But Jewish law contained a crucial distinction. A Jew was not allowed to charge interest to another Jew, but it was permitted to lend to foreigners at interest. In one of the Jewish holy books, Deuteronomy, it is written, "When you lend money, food, or anything else that can earn profit to your brother, do not charge him interest, but you may charge a foreigner interest. Thus the Lord your God will bless you in everything you put your hand to in the land he is giving you." This principle became a major opportunity for the Jews. High-interest lending, the earliest form of what we now call banking, took root in Jewish communities. Over time, this practice became one of the most common sources of income in Jewish neighborhoods and allowed some families to accumulate great wealth. For example, the famous Rothschild family, later known as one of the richest families in the world, rose to prominence through this very trade. The Jewish ability to preserve their wealth, however, went beyond lending. The second major factor behind their prosperity was the strength of their family bonds. During the Middle Ages, Jewish neighborhoods were often attacked, and their homes and belongings were looted. In response, they developed a clever strategy. Instead of keeping their wealth in one place, they hid it through relatives living in safer cities or countries. This not only helped protect their assets, but also strengthened family ties across regions. That's why, for centuries, Jews preferred not to invest in immovable property, but in things that were easy to carry and valuable everywhere, namely, gold and precious metals. Their philosophy was simple: always be ready to move. Keep your load light and your worth great. This mindset gave them incredible flexibility. Even if they were exiled from one country, they didn't lose their wealth. At the same time, the Jewish population in Europe was small, and because they had lived apart from society for so long, they remained tightly connected to each other. Their religious laws also supported this. Jews were only allowed to marry within their faith. This prevented family ties from breaking and allowed them to support one another across generations. Thus, whenever a Jew faced hardship, relatives from another city or country would provide protection, financial help, and moral support. This mutual assistance eventually led to the rise of powerful family businesses, Jewish dynasties that operated on a global scale. During the Middle Ages, since Jews were largely forbidden from engaging in trade or receiving education, they developed a new method among themselves. Families in better financial conditions would send their children to live for a while with relatives in other countries. This allowed young people to gain knowledge and skills in various fields and to broaden their worldview. A Jewish youth could learn trade and finance abroad, and then bring this expertise back to their own community. Over time, this exchange of experience evolved into a vast network. Through this network, information obtained in one country was shared with Jewish families in other countries, benefiting everyone involved. It was like a closed international economic system, but one that operated solely among Jews, independent of any state. These deep connections and the sense of mutual trust formed the foundation of their economic success. For every Jew, the prosperity of relatives and friends was just as important as their own wealth. This mindset became ingrained in the Jewish community's very DNA. Money attracts money, but the strongest wealth is our unity. Thus, when one family began a trade venture, others would invest in it, provide support when needed, and share the profits within the same circle. Thanks to this system, Jewish communities were able to maintain their positions in finance, trade, and banking over the centuries. Their goal was not only individual wealth, it was the collective strengthening of the entire community. The system established by Jewish families endured for centuries and gradually allowed them to gain an edge in economic, scientific, and financial fields. Each generation absorbed the experience of the previous ones and developed it further using more modern methods. Their guiding principle was simple: knowledge, unity, and adaptability. If opportunities closed in one country, they immediately established the same ventures in another. This approach allowed them to protect both their wealth and cultural identity. Today, the roots of many major financial institutions, industrial companies, and trading houses around the world trace back to those ancient family connections. In other words, the principle of supporting one another, formed centuries ago, continues to exert its influence in the modern era. In fact, the success story of the Jews is not just about money, it is about wise planning, education, solidarity, and the ability to adapt to the spirit of the times. Despite hardships, they acted in accordance with the demands of each era and even turned hostility into opportunity. That is why, throughout history, despite countless pressures, exiles, and massacres, they endured. Their greatest wealth was not gold, land, or buildings. It was intelligence, loyalty to one another, and intergenerational trust. All of this demonstrates once again that the reason Jews remain prominent today in economic and intellectual fields is the deep system that has been cultivated over centuries. Today's large family businesses operate on the same principle. Instead of immediately hiring their children into the family business after university, they have them work for several years in different companies so they can gain a more objective understanding of the system. A famous Jewish saying captures this educational process perfectly. You don't teach your children to earn money, they learn to steal. Friends, it's not just renowned scientists. Even Christopher Columbus, who discovered America, being Jewish is not a coincidence. Now, pay attention to the business trap you're currently facing. Let's compare two coffee companies. One produces excellent coffee that appeals to your taste, while the other advertises that a portion of the profit from every coffee sold will go to poor children in Africa or be used as scholarships for youth deprived of education. Which company would you choose? One of the fundamental principles of modern large companies is connected to another Jewish philosophy. No matter how much income you earn, it is important that family members avoid the spotlight and stay away from ostentation. You may not recognize many of them, yet Jewish contributions to today's business world are significant. In Europe, a Jew who flaunts wealth would attract attention and inevitably provoke someone's anger. To avoid these risks, wealthy Jews dress modestly and keep away from showiness and extravagance. Managing your earnings according to this principle is called the closed system. The purpose of making money is comfort, and comfort is measured by having someone to rely on when needed. Therefore, no matter how much you earn, if you can set aside half, only then have you truly succeeded. There is another subtlety. The work you do should not be thought of as a lifetime task, but as something continuous. According to Jewish thought, mastering a profession requires more time than a single human lifespan allows. In the end, you may succeed or rise in any field, but true longevity and impact are measured over centuries. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. You can leave your comments and thoughts below.